First ever visit from this Senate president. We got a lot to cover tonight.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Good Monday evening. Nice to have you aboard. I guess we're really going to head into summer by the end of the week. Thank goodness. Holy cow. Lots of work to do around the house. Big to-do list. How's everybody? Good? Mother's Day good? I hope you remember. You did remember, huh? You can't forget, but sometimes it's... Anyway, listen, we're not going to do the rundown of Washington tonight. We are going to spend a lot of time in Washington tomorrow night on cybersecurity, especially with what the virus thing is all about. Most of America hasn't been affected by this, but stay tuned. Timothy Edgar from the Brown Watson Institute will be in here to talk about the latest and the threat the governor, I should say the president, offered to the outgoing FBI director that there better not be any tapes. And what is that all about? So that'll be our conversation tomorrow. In the meantime, we got a lot to cover locally. I'm pleased to have the Senate president, the new one, here today. You'll be introduced in about 20 seconds. Here's why he has the job, the headline, and the goodbye.
This is hard. I'm happy, but it's hard. I have been serving our state for most of my adult life, and I have been rewarded with the support of so many people, and with the knowledge that each and every one of them does their best to help the working families and individuals here in our state. I've been proud to represent my home, Newport, and Jamestown, and all of the diverse issues that are so important to so many of us.
All right, so Teresa Paiva-Weed stepped down, and Dominick Ruggerio is the new Senate president. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
Some would say that you were running the show anyway.
I don't think so. If you noticed how we operated, Dan, we operated with a team concept, and Teresa was the head of the team. And there was me, Senator Mary Ellen Goodwin, Senator Michael McCaffrey, and our chairs were an intricate part of our leadership team, along with our vice chairs. So we had input from all the senators, and we have a number of senators who've worked on issues for a number of years. They have a level of expertise with those issues. So we had a very good leadership team going. And we didn't have the type of transition that, say, the House normally has, where people leave and other people move up to those chairmanships. We have a pretty steady group of individuals who've been chairs and vice chairs for a long period of time. So we had a great leadership team with Teresa, and I certainly wish her the very best, but I want to continue that tradition with the senators and the
well,
chairs.
what does the tradition mean? What is the tradition you're referring to?
Well, I think we do things in an orderly process. We do most of our work in committee. We iron out legislation in committee, and we don't really have that sort of back and forth on the floor, because I think everyone realizes and knows what we've done in the committee and some of the committee work that we've done, and we try to resolve the situations before we get out on the floor.
I didn't expect that answer. So is that efficient, or is that backroom politics?
Well, it's first of all, it's public. The hearings and the committees are public for the public viewing. People come in and testify. So I don't believe that's backroom politics at all. And it's just sometimes people come up with suggestions that we leave it to our attorneys to kind of amend legislation and kind of modify it and to try to get all the parties on board.
Talk to me about her exit. I mean, she's going to the hospital industry. She's running the hospital associations, but everybody knows she wants to be a judge. Was that a placeholder? Now, the question's for her, obviously. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but it seems to me that there was quite a lot of machination, a lot of politics going on for her to be able to step out, get that gig, and end up being a judge. Will she be a judge someday, you think?
I'm not sure that she wants to be a judge. I've sat in a number of interviews where Teresa definitely told the press that she did not want to be a judge. The position she has now, and you know what, I have to say this, she was absolutely phenomenal since she's been up there. I learned so much from her. She was such a great policy person. The position that she has now with the Rhode Island Hospital Association is right in her wheelhouse. It's absolutely perfect for her. It's my understanding it's a good salary. She has some benefits, and she was a health care wonk if there ever was one. So I think where she's sitting now, the position she's sitting now, I think she's going to be very comfortable in that position.
So you're telling me that she taught you a lot about policy?
She did teach me a lot about policy, correct, yes.
Well, Wongs tend to do a lot of lecturing, don't they? In general.
If you know Teresa, she did a lot of talking, yes.
What did you teach her?
I think I taught her strategy. I think I taught her how to handle some people and strategically how to help people. First of all, I learned a lot more than she learned from me. So I really appreciate everything that she assisted me with during my 10 years as the majority leader.
Tell me about the Senate in general. It is no doubt a quieter place when it comes to comparison with the House of Representatives and even the governor's office, where most of the moving and shaking goes on. And I'm not going to be out of school here. I mean, I have often suggested that the Senate hardly matters, that it's more or less a rubber stamp for what the House is doing. It's where all the financial legislation, for the most part, is generated. And yeah, some ideas come out of the Senate from every once in a while, but it seems to me, although the word Senate offers a kind of higher perspective, at least when compared to Washington, that here in Rhode Island, it's kind of a type of chamber.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a rubber stamp for anything. We do the review, the same review that the House does regarding the budget. We have our hearings.
They drive it.
They drive it. Well, they drive it. They feel it's theirs. The bill is introduced in the House. However, we have input in the budget. There's no doubt about it. I've never recalled the House passing the budget without the Senate passing the budget, because they need us in that respect. We obviously, the Senate has the appointments as far as directors, judges, and things of that nature, but
Different
we still
role.
play an intricate part in the budget.
Well, when it comes down to it, though, I mean, we sit there and we watch the play-by-play of the House of Representatives, for days on end, weeks on end in June into the late night. And by the time that's all done, you folks, for the most part, take a day or two to kind of wrap things up and make checks and balances to what the decisions are made. Every once in a while, you'll kick something back, and it causes a little bit of a thing. So tell me about that dynamic with you and Nick Mattiello. Get along well, I assume?
Yes. I supported Nick Mattiello when he first ran. He and I sat down and we negotiated legislation between the House and the Senate for approximately 4 years. I think we have a very good relationship, and I'm certainly looking forward to working with him on the budget and other matters, and also with the governor.
Well, there's stuff on my list that is budgetary in nature, so we'll postpone some of that conversation, get maybe your own perspective and see how much you're going to drive this conversation. Talk to me. You're in the paper today, actually, that your full-time position is now up for retirement at the end of the month. You're all done, huh?
Yes, I'm retiring from my organization, which I've been there for 33 years.
What was your role in that labor organization as administrator?
I was basically marketing. I did marketing throughout the New England region and part of New York for the organization. So,
what kinds of concepts?
Large construction projects. I was involved in the Big Dig a long time ago. A whole bunch of very large construction projects throughout the New England region.
So does it give you, obviously, we talk about labor in sometimes a nonchalant and kind of lazy way when it comes to public policy and taxpayer dollars and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot going on inside the world of taxpayer money, where labor sits, how much work is out there. What did that job? Obviously, for 30 some odd years, you're completely immersed in that world. How does that job inform you as a state senator?
Well, first of all, I get an opportunity to look at what other states are doing. Obviously, Massachusetts is booming, and I look to bring some of those companies here, maybe generate some interest in Rhode Island using my legislative hat. But I also got to meet a lot of developers. I got to get to know the process of development, and I felt that was great experience, and especially with the land that we have available here in Rhode Island, the 195 land, the land in East Providence, land in Newport. I think that was a pretty good experience for me.
Yeah, we'll check off some of the things on the list. I want to talk about the Wexford development specifically. In general, though, you're excited to be in leadership before we get down to some of these issues. This is something that you've been wanting, or did it just fall into your lap, or what's the story?
Well, the last thing I ever thought when I walked into that building, I'd be sitting here today in this capacity. So I didn't plan it. I often tell a story to people that when I first came into the House, they gave me the closest parking spot to the exit, not thinking that I was going to be there too long. So I mean, you never know how things are going to shake out once you get up there. I'm an issues person. I've had great support from the people in my community, and I think they're relatively happy with me, and I just kept on moving on. But did I ever think I'd be in a leadership capacity? No.
So now that you're retiring, are you filling the gap in your private life, or is that good enough? Got a good pension, and you're all focused on your public life. I mean, it's not like you make a bunch of dough as the Senate President.
Yeah, you know, this Senate President's position, and especially the way Teresa Piva-Weed operated, this is a full-time job, no doubt about it. And
it's a full-time, part-time job. It's
yes,
paid as a part-time job.
It's the fullest part-time job I've ever had. And I think to do this job properly, I have to put the time and the resources.
Is that why you retired?
Yes. Yes. If I was still the Senate Majority Leader, I probably would be staying with the organization that I was working for.
All right, we got a bunch to cover with the Senate President. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. The Senate President is with us. Speaking of labor and building things, got to have labor to build things. You're bullish on this? Well, you know what? I told you, Kevin, I was going to talk about the budget first. I was just thinking about a project. See, hey, when you're almost live television, you never know what's going to happen. Let's talk about the budget first, and then we'll set up some of these other projects. That was my bad. Almost $100 million shortfall now. Latest, $66 some odd million in this fiscal year. By the way, fiscal years end in the middle of your calendar year. July 1 begins the next year, and carrying over some stuff. What kind of overall pressure is that going to be on the legislature right now?
Well,
something to easily handle, or what?
Well, I wouldn't say easily handle. We're going to look for, you know, for efficiencies where we can hopefully, you know, get some money. However, I think we really have to be careful. We don't want to backslide on some of the things that we've already done in the past. The corporate tax, you know, the issues like that, the estate tax. I don't think we should touch those. The Senate has no desire for any kind of increase in the broad-based taxes. So we're going to have to see. I know our Finance Committee has been working hard, as the House Finance Committee has been, and we're going to see what we can come up with as far as efficiencies.
Sure, the efficiencies. I mean, again, it feels all very cliche. Nick Maniello kind of stuck it to Gina Raimondo last week, I think, when he talked about kind of the efficiency of the budget, some overspending, and those kinds of things, as opposed to a programmatical problem. In other words, your philosophies and your projections were online, but the everyday execution of the budget not so good. Do you agree with that?
I really don't know. I'd have to take a look at that, because I was not involved in the budget negotiations last year. So I'm kind of catching up and trying to get a clear picture of the landscape right now.
With 7 or 8 weeks left in the fiscal year, there's just so much you can do to create an efficiency resolve to a $66 million budget gap, correct?
Yes, but I think there are areas where you can look for savings, and I think one of them is in the Health and Human Services area where you can look for savings. I know that the Senate is committed to restoring the bus passes because we find that...
Which is a good idea, I think.
I think so too, because we find that there's a big drop-off with some of these people who go to these meal sites and go to these community centers, and they're not doing that anymore, and I think that's going to be a social issue down the line.
Well, that's not going to help you. I mean, that might add some pressure to the budget, not relieve it. Although the projection is that the seniors and the disabled would pay that freight. They just stopped paying the freight, so there was no money into RIPTA. I don't know why RIPTA has got to be a cash flow. Yeah, I mean, I get accused of having a little bit of a liberal mindset here. I mean, it's a service that everybody understands. It should be run efficiently, but I don't know that we have to put all this pressure on it to be in the black all the time. Do you agree?
Yes, because the state does subsidize RIPTA to some extent. So, I mean, there are services that they provide for those people who don't have automobiles, who can't drive, and they need those services to get to the doctors and to the meal sites and to the community centers and places like that for their own physical, mental, and emotional welfare. So I think that could be a societal cost down the road if you don't re-implement the free bus pass.
Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty. The car tax is something that's really, really front and center here. Governor Raimondo has kind of stolen the show on this, and it's not and the speaker's not happy about it. Listen.
My budget cuts every single car tax bill in the state by at least 30%. Let's be responsible about it. Let's make sure the cut is sustainable and affordable.
Speaker comes out with, I want to eliminate the car tax in 5 years at $40 million a year, up to $200 million in fiscal years for his final elimination. She kind of comes out with the, hey, 30% thing at the state of the state, and frankly, neither one of them know how the hell to do it. Because when you ask them and you dive deep, they have no answers. It's not your program, but do you have any answers on how to get this thing done?
I don't have any answers, and I look at that issue as the Speaker Mattiello issue. He came out with it during the election.
You agree with me that she kind of jumped him on this one?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I think she might feel that she has a better idea as how to resolve that situation. So I'm not sure if it's her looking to one-up the Speaker, or if it's just her looking to help the issue. The car tax in both my areas, North Providence and Providence, is a huge issue. So I'm supportive of a reduction in the car tax. And how they get there is anyone's guess, but I hope somehow they get there.
Well, see, this is what I'm talking about in terms of the Senate. When you say they get there, are you letting them drive that ship and then you just see what they're looking at, or is the Senate driving its own formula here now?
Well, that's their issue. I just would like to see how they, what the mechanism is how they get the money back to the taxpayer.
Do you understand how stupid our system is? The Vehicle Value Commission, first of all, it's never fully, implemented. There's always vacancies. It's like this Wizard of Oz type of entity, somewhere in a meeting once a year, and they decide. Well, and then you get tax assessors that are kind of running amok. Why can't, Mr. President, why can't we just do what Massachusetts does? Totally reform property and car tax in one fell swoop like they did way back when Proposition 2.5 came in. Establish a rate per thousand on value. I don't care if you wash your car every day or you dump half your garbage in it. It's the same calculation. Every city and state has the same expectation. Everyone pays the same freight. It requires hard work in terms of reorganization, but isn't that where we need to be as opposed to chipping away at a system that's ridiculous anyway?
Well, I think people are looking for car tax relief now. However, there's
some consistency.
Yes.
I mean, you're paying in North Providence double what I'm paying in Cumberland.
Well,
almost triple.
That's a way for the cities and towns to generate their revenue. And they certainly don't want to put that on.
The formula stinks, doesn't it? The formula's not a good
formula. The formula has to be improved. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about that. But there is legislation pending as far as one state, one rate.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting.
You support it?
I haven't heard it. I don't know what the pushback or the input was from anyone. I don't think it's been heard yet. But I think we should take a look at any kind of variables such as that.
All right. The jockeying, I think you probably agree, is between the House Speaker and the Governor, at least, is going to be the car tax and free tuition. The Governor's whistle is so wet on this 2 years free college tuition. This has been her baby, no doubt. We've got some discussion of that, of course. We have headlines on it, but here's the Governor on the free tuition situation.
You meet people in the community and you say, why'd you drop out? And they say, well, the gap was, $700. You dropped out of college for $700? Yes. Where was I going to get the money? So that student, if we had given them a $1,000 scholarship, and they graduate with a degree in nursing from Rick, they're going to go work in Rhode Island and be a great nurse.
You with that?
I'm with the concept of the education credit. So, we're looking at other things. We had the hearing on that issue. Some individuals feel that the GPA requirement and that is a little too low. Some people feel that there should be some community service involved, with those recipients of that. And we want to take a look at the issue and see. And naturally,
why not just kick in? Listen, if we're going to invest the money into the collegiate system, by the way, I'm bullish on that. Rhode Island College, URI, best returns on investment now. It's a little too pricey for everybody, but the point of the matter, correlatively and comparatively to other universities and certainly private institutions, what a bang for the buck those places are. Why not just a tuition suppression program? A guaranteed lock-in 4 or 5 years of no growth and/or a reduction of tuition, rather than this gimmick of 2 years of free college tuition, so you can run around the country talking about how great you are.
Well, I think that was a concept. I think we're going to take a good look at it. And I've said before, whether it's the car tax or the education credit, it has to be affordable and sustainable. If we can't continue these programs down the road, I don't think it would be wise to start that at this time.
What does that tell me? It's not as hot as she hopes it is in the Senate?
Well, I think the Senate is kind of divided on that because there are some areas where the car tax is prevalent, and some areas where people want where the car tax isn't really burdensome, and some people want the education tax credit. So it's kind of a split group there.
All right, we are going to hustle. We got a couple more things we must get to. Don't go anywhere. I want to know what the PawSox deal is all about, don't you?
If this was just a ballpark putting it over there, you know, it would be one thing. It's not. It's about a revitalization of our city. Clearly, it points to Apex being the highest generator or rate of return, if you will, for the city of Pawtucket as well as the state of Rhode Island.
Now, look, the PawSox have got to pony up and tell us sometime soon here what their investment's going to be in moving this thing to the Apex building. What is your general impression of a move of McCoy Stadium, or McCoy goes away, Apex, all that kind of thing?
First of all, I would love to see the PawSox stay here. I think they're an iconic Rhode Island treasure. I think that it provides entertainment, that very cost-effective entertainment for families, and people get to see the stars of the future.
Labor likes to build things.
Labor likes to build things, I mean, I had met with the Red Sox. At the time, they were interested in 3 locations. Apparently, they seem to feel that they would like to go to the Apex location.
What's the read? Tell me. Listen, it feels like everything is locked up. The governor is semi-ambivalent. The speaker, it's not his biggest issue right now. You're brand new. They want to go. Who's driving? Grabian is standing on his head trying to get this thing done. Who's driving this conversation?
I think right now the mayor of Pawtucket is driving the conversation.
He doesn't have the juice statewide to make this deal. Who's going to make this deal in the State House? Who's going to put their you-know-what out there?
Well, I'd have to think that seeing that Commerce has been having discussions
Commerce
with
is ridiculous.
the PawSox.
Commerce gives away money for bonehead deals like Wexford. This is not. This is going to be a state bond. There's going to be equity from the PawSox. It's just got to be enough, right? There's going to be a first-seat state bond that will be paid for by ticket and other revenues, and Pawtucket will do some kind of a piece. I mean, it's not rocket science. You know this. I mean, you've seen these deals, all your experience. Is this deal going to get done, and are you going to be able to sell that the state's got to have a piece of this?
Like I said, I haven't seen the deal yet.
Will you support the state having a piece of it?
I could support the state having it. Depends on how big a piece.
All right.
Depends on how big a piece.
We'll get some news on this week. I got 20 seconds here. Pot, is it going to pass? We're going to get some. What is it? Recreational marijuana legislation, or is it going to wait?
I think that act has to be studied, and we're going to have a full public viewing of that particular issue. I think it's a real complicated issue. There's edibles. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that you have to deal with on that situation.
Always comes down to the edibles, doesn't it? It's always about the edibles. Good to see you.
Don't
be a stranger.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll tell you what's up tomorrow when we come back. Stay with us. So is there a tape? Who knows if there's a tape, but we still have some intel, not only on what's going on in Washington, but some of this cyber worry worldwide with our guest Timothy Edgar tomorrow night. We'll see you on the radio at 3 on WPRO. So much to talk about. Good night.